Hi and welcome to my channel Reddit Wing Commander. My name is Charles and I am bringing to you some stories from Reddit. But before we get into these videos, it would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to the channel, dropped a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment below. Doing this will really help me in the future of the channel.
Interrupt my lunch? That's fine, I'll take another one. Reading another post about Wally World and lunches reminded me of a story during my time working there many moons ago. I will also add that I worked there well over 10 years ago, so some things may have changed since then. I also have never been able to tell a short story, so I'll try to keep it not so long, but it's not going to be short. So not too long after I started, and at least a couple of years before this story took place, I was called into a meeting with the store manager to discuss a situation with another coworker. When they came to get me, I was on lunch, and so after the meeting was over, they informed me that I could restart my lunch, because I was entitled to a full uninterrupted hour lunch. Since they interrupted my lunch, I got to start again and they would adjust my time for me. I kept this information in the back of my head for future reference, which worked out well. Fast forward a bit, and I'm working in the connection center, which is the department with the prepaid and contract cell phones. In our store, we were built into the electronics department, along with the photo center. At the time, we and the photo center were considered a special department. We were a different division from the main store, had separate payroll, managers, etc. So technically we were supposed to help cover each other's area, and couldn't be pulled to another department, or make another department help us. In practice though, electronics would usually help our customers if we weren't there, and we would help them on things we were able to. The exception was contract cell phones. We were the only people able to do a contract. We had to run credit checks, etc. Everything that was done through an actual cell phone store. For some reason I no longer remember, I was alone my whole shift this day. We normally had one person 9 to 6, one 12 to 9, but the morning person either called off or left early, and so I was on my own. Around 3:30 or so, about a half hour before my lunch should be, I had a couple guys come by wanting to see about getting a contract cell phone. I was finishing up another cell, so I told them if they wanted to look around, I'd be done in probably 15 minutes. They left, I finished with my customer and I didn't see them again. I did wait around for them a bit, then had some other customers, etc., so I didn't leave on lunch until after 5. About 5:30, I'm close to getting locked out, and so I go to take lunch. The person working electronics is one of the few who doesn't really like our department, and refuses to help our customers, so I told him I was going to lunch and just send any of our customers to photo for help if they needed anything. About 30 minutes into my lunch, I hear an announcement across the intercom for customer needing help in the connection center. I am in the break room, so I call up to electronics, remind them I'm on lunch, and send customer to photo or tell them I'll be back in 30 minutes. Turns out someone just had a question about a prepaid phone card. About 10 minutes go by, and I'm being paged again. This time I ignore it because they know I'm on lunch. Few minutes later they page again. At this point I've got maybe 15 minutes left on lunch. One of the store managers comes in right after the second page. Asks me why they are paging my department and I'm not answering. Now we got 1 unpaid hour lunch, and 2 paid 15-minute breaks. Since we are still on the clock during our breaks, we can be interrupted and they aren't guaranteed. If it's busy we sometimes won't get our second one. I guess because it's after 6, he assumes I'm on my last break and not lunch, and just being lazy and not wanting to go help. Because we were a specialty division and couldn't be pulled to the registers or other departments, there were a couple other departments that were like this, such as jewelry. This has all since changed. There were a couple managers who seemed to have beef with our departments and seemed to think us lazy or entitled because we refused to be pulled. So I start telling him that I'm the only one there and I have 15. Before I can finish my sentence he interrupts and tells me that I can take my 15 later, I need to go help the customer. I try again to explain I have 15 minutes left on lunch, I'm off the clock, and I'll be up there to help them afterwards, but he isn't listening, interrupts me again and says, "You can come restart your break after you help them, but I need you to go help them now." A light bulb goes off in my head and I ask, "You want me to go help the customer now, and then restart my time?" I do make sure not to say break or lunch, just time. So he rolls his eyes, says basically I don't care, you can restart it, just go help the customer. So I say okay, gather my stuff, put it in my locker and clock in. At this point they have paged me again, and I have maybe 10 minutes left on my lunch. I go up to the department and lo and behold, it's my customer from 330 who has finally come back. He wants a phone. So I ask for his ID, tell him I'll have to run a credit check, see if he needs to pay a deposit etc., and asks if he knows what phone, plan etc. he's interested in. Well, as soon as I tell him we will run his credit and he may have to pay something, he's not interested. He says his credit is S***T. He tried getting a phone through the Sprint store and they wanted a bunch of money, but he thought since it's Wally World, that IDK, we didn't check credit, we would just hand him a phone? So it takes maybe all of 5 minutes with him, and I go ahead and help another customer with a prepaid phone, then turn to electronics and tell them okay, I have to go restart my lunch, I'll be back in an hour. When I say his jaw dropped, he immediately starts asking what I'm talking about. I already had lunch, yada yada. So I explain that no, I didn't finish because management sent me to help the customer he kept paging me about even though he knew I was at lunch, so now I needed to go retake my lunch. I go sit back in the break room and at this point it's probably 6:45. I always read and had a book with me so I was happy to sit and read for another hour. About 30 minutes go by and the manager from earlier comes by. I think they are clicking back in from lunch, and makes a comment about, oh, are you just now getting your break? So I say no, I am retaking my lunch break, I have another half hour to go. He stops, and you can see the wheels slowly start to turn as he asks what do I mean. I tell him that I was on my lunch earlier when he told me I needed to go help the customer and because my lunch was interrupted, I had to restart. He of course says he thought I was on my break. Why didn't I tell him I was at lunch? And I tell him I tried to twice but he kept interrupting, and told me ton help thr customer now and restart my time so I thought he knew I was at lunch. I can still see his fat face get so red and tell me that's not at all what he meant, and he will talk to my manager tomorrow. There wasn't much fallout, I got pulled and questioned the next day, but I had messaged my boss and told her about it and the times I was at lunch to cover myself for time theft, and the photo employees backed me up on everything, including that electronics never told them a customer needed help or sent them the customer. The manager had to admit that he did tell me that I needed to go help the customer right then and he never asked if I was on the clock or not. The ASST manager who questioned me did try to make it seem like I was being dramatic and should have just went up when I was paged. But I just asked what would have happened if I left for lunch, as I usually did. I think it was bad weather that day so I had stayed inside, but I normally sat in my car just to get out of the building, and would never have heard the pages? And asked if I had been given incorrect information before by the store manager? To which she agreed I was correct. I did make it known that had they talked to the customer, then called me in the break room and told me someone needed help with a contract phone, I would have probably clocked in early and went to help, and that I'd done that before. But since the first time the customer just wanted to know what card to buy and they paged me instead of helping or having photo help them, I wasn't going to interrupt my lunch multiple times when I'm off the clock. I am pretty sure they talked to the electronics employee because he never paged me like that again afterwards, and a couple employees who didn't know the lunch rule before learned it that day. And I got paid to read for an hour that day.